joining us live to discuss is retired four-star Army General Barry McCaffrey. Thank you so much for being with us on a Monday.
Yep, good to be with you, Joyce.
So, General, how significant is this blockade? Smart move, risky, as Iran's threatening every port now in the region?
It's a mess. I listened to two very serious and experienced commentators this morning arguing that it was a sensible action to try and use the U.S. Navy to force the Iranians back to the negotiating table. I suppose it could come out that way, but there's two points I think that contradict that line of thinking. One is the U.S. Navy warships should not be in the Persian Gulf. It's shallow water, it's confined spaces, they're subject to swarm attacks, subsea, surface, air. It's a dangerous place. And by the way, it's a long way up to Karg Island, 400 miles. And I think the second observation is you can't use military force to guarantee safe passage of oil tankers. You may be able to guarantee safe passage at the Gulf itself of U.S. military naval forces, but not oil tankers moving at a very slow speed, giant physical presence, and subject to a disaster if they're hit by an undersea mine or by a ballistic missile. So I don't know what he's doing. I think both sides are in great peril of resuming all-out combat. It's not going to serve either side's interests. They've simply got to get back to the negotiating table, open the ports, and Trump's probably going to accept a tactical victory over the Iranian armed forces in lieu of having actually achieved any of his strategic objectives.
What is a realistic path to de-escalate from here in your mind?
I think both of them right now are talking to each other, trying to find a way out of this. The Iranians apparently are not going to agree to give up their nuclear program in its entirety. So I think the U.S. is going to end up accepting, to some extent, a 10-year, 20-year moratorium on attempts to actually produce a weapon. The U.S. in turn, if the Straits of Hormuz remain closed, it will be a global economic disaster that will affect the United States and our internal politics going into the midterm. So a very risky situation. The two sides have good arguments on why they need to get back to the table and get a permanent ceasefire and agree to talk for another year or so to sort out the real issues.
As you know, over the weekend, Pope Leo called the war a moral failure, calling for peace while criticizing Trump and this U.S. blockade. Your thoughts on his comments and their impact at home and abroad, and also the president's post over the weekend portraying himself as a savior?
That post, I say this with due respect, but it appears as if the President of the United States has significant mental health problems. I mean, if that post has been made by a lieutenant colonel battalion commander, we'd remove him immediately from command and put him under some sort of observation by the medical community. That is bizarre stuff. It makes no sense whatsoever. He's posting, I think last night, 12 or 13 times. So he's up in the middle of the night sending out these inexplicable posts. We have a national security process. We've got 2 million people under arms, Guard, Reserve, active forces. We need serious people in the government. And right now, it does not appear that that's the case.
So rare to hear from a pontiff on topics of war and politics, although he's been pushing for peace since the outset. Just your thoughts on his comments over the weekend.
Well, that's his position. The head of the Catholic Church, 1 billion adherents in the global community. He's supposed to speak to the gospel, speak to peace, decry war, protect the elderly, children. That's what he's doing. So for Mr. Trump to react to that and attack him personally, just in a political sense, is just unheard of. Never mind, it's deeply offensive to pose yourself as the savior in the middle of the night on Truth Social is really extreme behavior.
And then we're almost out of time, but I feel as if I would be, remiss in not asking you about the voters in Hungary ousting Viktor Orban even after the president sent the vice president, J.D. Vance, there to campaign for him. Is this a big deal? What does it signal about the brand of populism that Trump has seemed to embrace?
I think it's a huge deal. My wife and I love going to Hungary. It's such a beautiful place, hardworking people, 10 million, creative. Orban turned it into a kleptocracy. He was a servant of Putin. He was turning on the European Union values. So this is a tremendous step in the right direction for the Hungarian people. I'm happy for him.
General Barry McCaffrey, thank you so much. We appreciate your time, always. Thanks. We'll be right back.